What is going on, guys? Welcome to the third episode of Rendezvous with Yash Chauhan. In this episode, we have with us Mr. Raunak Munot. For those of you guys who do not know him, Mr. Munot is the co-founder of the Bombay Shaving Company, a top-of-the-line grooming company for men whose products I definitely use and I strongly suggest that you should too. Other than that, Sir has recently founded a new company called Trove Experiences, which is still in the works, but it is a lifestyle company. It takes you to the lifestyle experiences to make you enjoy life even more. I'll link both these companies in the description so you can check them out definitely. In the episode, however, Sir and I talked about entrepreneurship, the importance of following your dreams, and how students and just youngsters who want to start their own business can do that with the help of a few tips and tricks here and there. Other than that, we also talked about how one can sustain a business during difficult and trying times such as right now. I wouldn't tell you a lot in this introduction because definitely the conversation itself was really enlightening and really engaging for me and so. Enjoy this episode and do rate us, do give us a review. It really helps us a lot. And just so you guys know, now we are there on all the streaming services, audio as well. So we are there on Spotify, we are there on Ghana, we are there on Apple Podcasts, we are there on Google Podcasts. So I would now definitely suggest you guys to check us out on the audio services first, because a podcast is supposed to be something that you listen to, not essentially see. And I do know that all these podcasts which I've put up, till now, and also all the episodes which are yet to come, there isn't anything necessary visual about it. Most of the things are, it's kind of stuff which helps you even if you just listen to it. So whenever you're working out, whenever you're driving, you're cleaning your house, whatever, household chores you're doing, so you can listen to all these episodes at that point of time. I'll link all the audio platform services down below in the description. So make sure you check them out. Enjoy this episode. I hope you definitely derive some value of it. And thank you for being here. What's good, you guys? So, like promised, for the third episode of In Conversation with Yash Chauhan, we have with us Mr. Raunak Munot. He's the co-founder of the Bombay Shaving Company, an organization which is so essential for us guys, especially those of us who actually care about the grooming. Bombay Shaving Company is a company whose products I've been using personally for a long time now. So helped co-found that company, so that's definitely huge. So first of all, thanks a lot for taking out the time and being a part of this podcast. It really means a lot to me.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Yash, for having me, and happy to share whatever little I've learned through my journey with your followers.
Thanks a lot for that. So, starting off, could you please tell us a bit about your journey? How did entrepreneurship and building your own thing from scratch come into the picture, and how your life lessons molded you into the person you are right now?
Right. So I'm from Pune, born and brought up here. I come from a huge Marwadi joint family. Um, I went to Kota for my 11th and 12th to prep for IIT. The family had huge expectations that, bacha IIT jayega and all that. Unfortunately, that did not happen. I didn't get in. But I got a decent enough rank in AIEEE to get into a good engineering college, UDCT, ICT now in Bombay. I enrolled into polymer engineering. I didn't really have an inclination towards polymer engineering, but the family advised that it's a good field, it's a safe field, and it has potential in the future. So I said, okay, why not? But in my second year itself, I realized this is not my cup of tea. I can't
What
sit
exactly
in a lab
is
and make
that? What exactly does it include?
Polymers are plastics.
Okay,
It's
polymer
used. It's
engineering.
prevalent
Okay.
everywhere. Yeah.
It's like a branch of chemical
Um,
engineering, if I'm not wrong.
So UDCT is a 85-year-old institution.
Okay.
It's produced a lot of great people like Mukesh Ambani, Adi
Okay,
Godrej,
wow.
and several more. Um, and it only has chemical engineering and related fields. So there's pharmaceutical, there's oils, textiles, dyes, polymers, paints, etc. And so I got into polymer engineering. Realized in my second year this is not really my cup of tea. I'm not someone who can sit in a lab and mix chemicals and wait for 2 hours for something to happen or not happen.
I feel
And
that.
so at the end of my second year itself, I was like, "This I can't do this, or I don't see myself doing this in the long term." And obviously, I can't, go back and start like miss out on 2 years and kind of just start from scratch somewhere else because I still didn't know what I wanted to do. So I figured let's complete this degree, but at the same time try and really understand what is it that I'm liking and what do I want to do next.
This is
And
a
I was
mistake
always
also, like, with regard to what you said right now. This is a mistake which many students make, which I've seen, because especially, the way the culture of dropping out from college has been romanticized over the years. Many students, just because they don't like what they're doing in college, they drop out and they don't have the faintest idea of what they're going to do after they drop out. So definitely that's a good thing
exactly
to do, that, you stay in college while you figure out what you actually want to do. And if you figure it out while in
yeah.
college years, then you can drop out if you have a plan. But dropping out without a reason, like, that doesn't seem like the best thing to do, definitely. So
All these autobiographies and biographies and books on successful people who have dropped out have kind of just made it more glamorous to drop out.
definitely.
I don't think any of those people dropped out because they wanted to drop out. It's because they had something else figured out which they knew they like, they enjoy, and they are going to dedicate their lives to, and hence they dropped out.
Yeah,
So dropping
definitely.
out just because you're not liking it is not the reason. Dropping out because you have something better figured out, um, and you're sure about it. It's not just like a knee-jerk reaction to, oh, you know what, it would be cool to do this. If it's a more matured thought, then it's okay. Otherwise, it's highly recommended that you complete your education. But yeah, always kind of look out for. You need to be aware about what you're liking, what you're gravitating towards naturally, what do you enjoy, and so that's something I started doing, and I found myself naturally just gravitating a lot towards the co-curricular, extracurricular things that were happening. So I was organizing a lot of college events, and those things gave me like a huge drive. I just love doing it. It there was a kick in it, which I'd not felt otherwise, and so I knew that I have to do something in the management space, but with a creative bent to it. And fortunately, a friend recommended a program in creative brand management at Virginia Commonwealth University in the US. So I looked up the curriculum, studied it in detail, which I'd never done for polymer engineering. I read through all the coursework and exactly what happens. Spoke to a few people who are already doing it. Spoke to a few people who are already in advertising and branding about kind of what the field is like. And after doing kind of thorough homework on the field, I decided, okay, this really sounds very interesting for what I want to do. It was like an MBA, but with a focus on branding and advertising,
Understood.
which was very appealing to me. So went and did that for 2 years. After that, I worked in the US for 5 years in social media marketing, online marketing,
Okay,
digital
wow.
marketing more broadly. I worked with Audi of America first, Jaguar Land Rover, Group M, which is a media conglomerate globally, and several of the other clients. But always wanted to come back to India. That I was very firm on even before I went.
Like a
And
Swadeshi at heart.
I don't know why. There's no real. It was just a thing. वापस आके यहीं से कुछ करना है. There was no any other reason really behind it. It was just a thing, and so I was looking out for a good opportunity. In July of 2015 is when my friend Shantanu he called and he said he's going to quit McKinsey, and there's a big opportunity in men's grooming, and he knew that I was looking at an opportunity to come back and kind of start a brand of my own from scratch, having worked for premium brands previously. And he said, "Do you want to come and build the brand along?" So kind of evaluated it for 2 months. Obviously, it was a big decision. I was, in New York, in one of the best cities in the world. Good job, everything was great. Happily married, and now to kind of move your base completely back to India, where life is very different, and start from scratch
Hmm.
was a big decision, but it had to be done at some point. So I said, why not now? So did that for about 4 years. As of October 2019, I took a step back from my role at Bombay Shaving Company as the head of brand and marketing, and I started Trove Experiences, which is something that I have been wanting to do ever since I organized that first event back in
Yeah.
UDCT. And the kick that I got out of it, I knew that okay, something has to be done in this experiential space, event space, and all the wealth of experience that had come through all those premium brands that I'd worked with, in terms of the storytelling and building a brand culture, would all come in handy over here. That's Trove Experiences, about 8 months old now, and looking forward to how it develops.
Definitely. So I totally relate with you on the part, where you didn't like engineering, because not many people know, like some of my close friends know, I was a science student in 11th and 12th. But like I discovered it a bit early on कि यार ये चीज अपने लिए नहीं है. This is not exactly what I want to do, because even I was the kind of guy who was more into as a events and everything. Any event in the school,
Right.
the teacher comes in who would like to volunteer, ma'am. Like, there was definitely that kick which you're
Right.
talking about. I definitely felt that too. And that's why like I changed the stream totally after my 12th. And so one thing I would like to ask you over here would be like when you were weighing the pros and cons of New York and India, so what made you decide that okay, let's go back to India? Because like looking at it from a rational perspective, like New York is considerably, given the amenities and also the quality of living, better than what you get in most of the conditions in India. So what made you like, how did you evaluate that decision?
I think I think the driver there was to do something yourself and kind of leave your own mark on something that you built.
Definitely.
And if you have that drive, then I don't think you can be in a job somewhere else where, of course, you can drive a lot of things. Things were going great over there. There was no challenge as such. But at the end of the day, somebody else is calling the shots. There's a certain direction that is decided by a bigger organization, and when you want to do things a certain way, I think that's kind of what causes you to take that jump. And so,
Understood.
yes, of course, I've answered this question many times to many family members and many friends. Why did you leave Manhattan and come to Pune? you know, uh, everyone kind of wants to be there, and you are driving all these nice cars, working with all these nice companies, all of that. But beyond a point, there's kind of a greater calling
Of course.
that beckons. So you
Definitely.
just follow that.
So it's about following your passion rather than your profession.
Right. Well, but your passion, ideally, you want to turn your passion into your profession.
Understood.
And there's a difference between many people who are in jobs may not be passionate about it, but may like it a lot and may be really good at it. And I think I was in that category. I love what I was doing. I didn't like. Sometimes people feel like if you're not passionate, like it's either passionate or it's like a
Totally
boring job that
disheartened.
you
Like,
hate. No, there's
yeah,
a lot of middle ground over there
understood.
where you can choose to do that. And I was very happy doing what I was doing, but somehow there was still this kida, if you will, that something more
Definitely.
can be
That
tried. And
higher
if not
calling
now,
a
when?
thing from inside that, yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
want to do. Totally understand that, sir.
And more so like
So,
that
yeah,
time was running out, you're like, you're 30 years old, you want to try it now. because maybe at 35 or 40, if you're once your kids and
The
all,
risk factor
the
would be lower.
drive may go down. Yeah.
Okay,
So
understood, sir. Totally. So, second question, addressing the elephant in the room. How has the COVID-19 situation affected the whole startup and the business space? Of course, it has, like, created a very bad impact. Many businesses are literally fighting to survive. Startups are failing right now more than ever. But, if we look back in history, most of the great companies which, are the giants today, they were formed, during times of crisis. Most of the companies which, teenagers and people use right now were formed either during the 2008 crash, or maybe the 9/11 wala time in the US. That's when most of the companies started, which are actually flourishing right now. So, first question, what's your take on the current scenario? When do you think it's going to improve? And what does a company need to do right now to make sure that we're in the group which will flourish in the years to come and not die out?
right, that's a lot of questions in one. But I'll try to give my 2 cents. It is a very, very bad situation. Fortunately, Trove is a very young company where we were only 3 people right now, and we're able to manage. Bombay Shaving Company also is able to manage despite operations being halted pretty much from a sales operations being on hold for almost 6 weeks. We are kind of weathering the storm, and now we're back. But manufacturing. If you're in the service sector, things are still okay. Of course, a lot of people are still being laid off because demand is not as high. But if you're in kind of the manufacturing sector, there are a lot of challenges, labor issues, logistics issues, and those people are facing a lot of challenges. It's anybody's guess when things will become normal.
Of course.
There's yeah, I'm actually reading this book called Black Swan by Talib, and we're currently going through a black swan. So it's really
What
interesting to kind of
exactly is
read
it?
it
Could you
while
please
you're
elaborate
going
for the
through it.
listeners?
Uh, it basically talks about these black swan events that are highly unpredictable. There's nothing in history that would have pointed to this happening. Nobody could have predicted that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first feature of a black swan. Second feature is it leaves a massive impact. And the third is that retrospectively, when people kind of try to analyze it, they will always say, "Ye to hona hi tha." That was bound to happen. People try to be very smart about it. Um,
Understood.
but it's very difficult to actually predict. Nobody knows. And there's a very interesting chapter in that on kind of how bad we are at predicting. There's a book that a journalist had written in the early 1940s during the World War, Second
Mm.
World War, where in none of the reporting was it ever predicted that things would rise to a level of the Holocaust and Hitler and everything that happened. It was never predicted while it was happening. Of course, now when you look back, you can always say, "Yeah, these traits were seen, hence this happened." Hence, so you kind of retrospectively, it's
Like, you
easy
connect the
to
dots
have
later on
show
when you look at it,
causality.
in the rearview mirror.
Right. So
Understood.
so eventually, it's easy when looking back. It's easy to show causality. Even if I look at my career, I can draw a causality of how from here to there, but it could have been something else, and I would have drawn a causality to
Totally.
why I'm there as well. But basically, the point is, it's difficult to predict. Some people say 6 months, some people say 12 months, some people say 18 months lasting impacts. We really don't know what's going to happen. And that's why you're seeing a lot of companies kind of focusing on their core competencies, their core businesses. 20-25% of workforce has been laid off. And it's a dire situation. But at the same time, it's also newer opportunities, newer ways of doing business. There's so many people are doing things virtually, and I think that's one thing that I have observed. You know, you're either the type where you easily take this as an excuse and say, "Okay, sab kaam band hai, sab band hai," or you're the kind who has the drive COVID or not COVID, and is going to figure out a way to do something.
Definitely.
So um, my suggestion to anyone is kind of be in that second bucket. If you open yourself to newer possibilities, newer ways, then you can figure things out. The
Of
gig
course.
economy is on the rise. People are doing jobs across. Like the positive is, first, to do a job, you had to be in the
At
location where the job is happening. Now, the whole world is kind of available, and you can work remotely for anyone. You don't have to
totally.
do full-time jobs. You can do part-times. You can take on internships. Like, if you want to do something, you can figure something out.
Definitely.
But if you want to take it as an excuse that
Then
the
everything is an
situation is
excuse.
bad, I
Like,
can't do anything. Not to
that's
not to
very
say
true.
not to say that people are not going through genuine challenges and genuine issues. They
Of
are.
course.
um, and the situation is really bad for many people. But again, you have to kind of evaluate what best you can do in the situation.
Of course. So that's totally the case. Like, I'd just like to share an experience with you. Like, when the lockdown started, like it happened on, I guess, 20th March, if I'm not wrong. So my college was shut down on 15th. So we were told, "Ki go to your hometowns. The college is shut, right?" So we were like, okay, 15, 20 days max to max. So I came back home and all I did was complete Suits. Like, I'm not sure if you watched it. Is that series
I
on
have.
Prime? You have, right? So that's the
Yeah.
only series I've watched till date, and I finished it a couple of days ago. So I was just binge watching
Right.
Suits, and that's it. But then a month passed, and I'm like, okay, shit, I've been just sitting at home doing nothing for 1 month. And like, I'm not usually the kind who does that, because I would usually, like, be involved in internships or some side project or something or the other. And then I realized, okay, I have this opportunity, because many times I want to work, like, for something or work on my own side hustle, but I'm not able to because I have the college ka pressure. So I realized, okay, abhi
Right.
college to hai nahi. So right now I can actually work on building my own thing. And that's how I started
Right.
my YouTube channel and my podcast, which you are a part of right now, thankfully. And like, I'm
Which is
genuinely
very good.
seeing the growth. Like, in a couple of months, I've interacted with over 20 to 25 highly successful people. And that wouldn't have been
That's great.
possible until and unless I realized, okay, this is an opportunity which I can capitalize on right now. So that's definitely there. Everyone
Right.
should see the brighter picture for sure. Like, that's definitely a part of it.
It's a
So
mindset thing. You make up your
yeah,
mindset to be productive, to figure something out. You will.
definitely, definitely.
And of course, take some action towards it.
Of course.
And you will. So I'm proud that you kind of figured that, okay, I like talking to
Thank
people, I like interacting with people. And one could even stop at just interacting and kind of you know getting the knowledge and kind of just, but you decided to share it out with
thank you
people
so
who
much.
follow you, and kind of growing a channel, which is again a very, very good thing.
Definitely. So thanks a lot, sir. Like mentioning the, the mindset thing which you mentioned. Have you read this book, You Can Win by Shiv Khera?
I have not read that one, but I've read You Can Achieve More
Okay, I
by him.
haven't read. Okay, have you heard the story of David and the Goliath?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Yeah. So for the listeners who don't know, so the story basically is that Goliath was a giant, kind of like Christianity ka Kumbhakaran, if you might call him that. And David was a guy who came into the town from another place, and everyone was scared of Goliath. They used to, like give him as a whatever he asked for. And David was like, "Arey, why are you doing this? Why don't you kill him? Why don't you hit him?" So they're like, "He's too big to hit." So David told everyone that you guys are seeing it the wrong way. He's too big to miss. And like, he then
Right.
like ends up killing the person. So it's about seeing, it's being, it's like seeing the glass is half full or half empty. That's the deal. And always seeing the brighter side,
Absolutely.
like we said. And so with regards to book, I can see a lot of books behind you on both the sides. So like, has reading been something, which has been like a part of your lifestyle? If yes, so which book has
Uh,
like had the most impact on you?
so actually, it's not, and this is something I'm actually quite proud of. I, for the longest time in my life, up until last May, I had only read about 5 or 6 books in my life, and
Okay.
that's almost 33 years of my life. And this was a time last May 2019 when I had already taken the decision to kind of start working on Trove, slowly, gradually reducing my involvement with Bombay Shaving Company. And I knew that kind of I enjoyed being in the middle of the action at Bombay Shaving Company, which is, by the way, based out of Delhi. And so now to move from that, where we are a 80-85 member organization, to start from scratch was going to be a difficult journey. And so I wanted to inculcate some new habits, which kind of help me. It's like a daily pep talk on almost, inculcate
Definitely.
some good habits that help me be productive every day. And I thought, I've always wanted to read, but I've never really managed to read it. And that's probably because I've never set up a good system for it. And so the first book I read, which is one of the books that I would highly recommend, is The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. And it talks about how to kind of form habits, how we are a creature of thousands of habits, and it kind of explains what happens in the brain, and kind of it decodes habit formation and habit changing. So I happened to start reading that book while I was aiming to form a new habit. And so I kind of started following certain principles from that book and saying, okay, every morning I'm going to spend 1 hour reading. That's the first thing I'm going to do. Because
Understood.
that'll A, make me feel a little more knowledgeable in my head. B, it'll make me feel productive first thing. So it sets the tone for the day. And C, it's like just, it's a good thing to be reading. You gain knowledge and all that. And I said, okay, I'm just going to read about 20 to 25 pages, which is approximately one chapter per day, but do it consistently. And since then till now, I've read on 85% of the days, and
Wow.
I'm on my 28th book now since then.
28.
And
That's great.
it's something I like really look forward to. It gives me a lot of joy. Many times now I'll read in the morning, I'll also read at night, and exploring different genres. I've primarily been reading a lot of motivational, inspirational, entrepreneurship, creativity, those, design thinking, those kind of books.
Definitely.
Not so much into fiction yet. But yeah, The Power of Habit is definitely one that I would recommend. Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, another one I would recommend. The one I'm currently reading, Black Swan by Taleb. It's a heavy read, but again, something that I would recommend. You need to spend your time on it, though. And now reading has become a ritual. So, when I'm reading, I have, a friend once recommended, why don't you use a scale and a pencil to kind of highlight the things that you like in every book. So I kind of have a religious way of kind of doing that.
Yeah.
There are new words that I
That's something
discover
even I
which I don't know
practice.
of.
Like it helps you to get back to the book, like, when you're looking at it at a later point of
And
time.
it's a quicker
That's
read
definitely
if you want to revise it. Yeah.
totally understand
I
that.
any good quotes, any good quotations that I find, I have a running note on my phone where I keep adding to that list. New words is a separate note. I keep adding to that list. And then if I have my own kind of thoughts basis whatever I've read, I have a note for that as well. So there's like four
Understood.
or five things happening in parallel with reading. So it's become a ritual now.
Definitely.
And so hence, yeah, that thing is growing now, and I'm looking forward to turning it into a nicer library in
That's
the
great, sir.
coming time.
So, like, one of the best quotes which I read related to books was, "You can judge a man's, as a knowledge base by the size of his library." And that's definitely a huge library back there you have. And so, another
This is
question.
actually, yeah,
Sorry, you were saying something?
this is actually not much. There's not much. There's
Like,
just the
definitely
start.
it's growing. Like, from 5 books in like 35 years to 29 books in in the span of around a year.
1 year,
That's
little over a
definitely great
year.
progress.
Yeah,
So, like, apart from the power of
yeah.
habit, which book has influenced you the lot, like the most?
Uh, um, there's this book called The One Thing by Gary Keller, which he talks about, again, laser focus on like one thing, and how that one thing can have a domino effect on various things in your life. So that one. outliers is, I mean, I think with every book almost that I read, I try to kind of imbibe some things into my thinking or into the way I deal with people, friends, family. And so, I think in every book there's something new to learn. Um,
Definitely, sir.
yeah.
So
I
that's
mean,
there.
in
And
Ikigai, I read about the 80% rule in Ikigai, which is like the
yeah,
Japanese concept of leading a good life. And I've been following that 80% eating rule ever since. And, I've lost 3 or 4 kgs without
wow,
really doing much,
that's
just that.
great.
So,
That's great.
I mean, that's real impact. So every book has
Definitely.
its own impact. But I think Power of Habit, uh, A, because I started with it, but B, because all of these micro habits all kind of relate to that book again. I think that one's had the biggest impact.
Like I would suggest that starting with the power of habit, it was a very good decision because it tells you about how to build a habit. And when you're trying to read a book,
Exactly.
get the habit of reading books, then reading a book about how to build habits, like definitely spot on. Totally, sir. So, sir, next question. What would be the 2 to 3 habits which you have, or habits or routines which you follow in your life, which have helped you become a successful entrepreneur?
So first of all, I don't know if I'm a successful entrepreneur yet.
So you are. We can verify that.
And I mean, it's all relative, right? What is success, what is not. Um, but I think in terms of you got to do your best. So, in terms of habits, one, of course, reading or exercising first thing in the morning just sets the tone for the day really well, and that's something I've been doing. I'm a avid to-do list maker, so I always, and this has been there for a long time. So my day is always planned out at the beginning that these are the things I want to achieve, and generally the goal is to achieve at least 80 or 90% of those things. You always kind of overplan, so you have to aim higher so that you at least achieve 80-90% of it. Um, so I think planning out your day in your head or also on paper, and then I have this weird habit of really scratching the f out of the to-do list once
Yeah, definitely. That
once it's done.
satisfaction when you achieve something and you scratch that out totally. That's just a
There's,
एक
there's
अलग
a good
boost type
feeling,
लगता है. It's very like it's so satisfying.
right?
Totally, sir.
Sometimes there are times when, like, I've done something which I should have done, but it's not on the to-do list. I'll finish it, I'll put it on the to-do list and scratch it.
Definitely. So totally understand that feeling, sir.
So that's another good thing. One of my ex bosses uh, had given me a lesson on email management, and I think that's another important part. A lot of people become very inefficient with emails, and they end up taking a lot of time in your day. So that's one more thing I manage. At least my official mailbox, not my personal mailbox. I have it very well organized with folders, and I keep archiving things into those folders. So at
Definitely.
any given time, I try to maintain like a zero inbox, and not just like unread or read zero, but actually in the mailbox. If you go to my mailbox, you'll only find 3 or 4 emails based on things that I'm supposed to do. I'll keep snoozing things that are not important. And it's
Understood.
just another thing that helps you kind of be on top and focus on a few things that are important.
Understood.
So I think, yeah, just introspecting, planning your day a little better, picking out 1 or 2 habits that make you feel good first thing in the morning. I think those are some of the things that have helped
Totally.
um,
That
uh,
mail one was new
me
for
get
me.
to
Like
where I am.
even I have a habit. Like I don't have an official mail ID as such, but the college has given everyone a mail ID, and I try to keep myself
Right,
considerably neat and organized. But that's something which will be even more essential, like given the situation that everyone is going to be, working remotely right now. So definitely, email will be the,
right,
the main, line of communication. So definitely, that's something people should put in a lot of effort and time into. So thanks a lot for
right.
that part, sir. And so moving on, what is the biggest difference between being an entrepreneur and wanting to be one? There are many people, who want to be entrepreneurs, but there's a huge difference in the
Mm.
image people have in their mind of being an entrepreneur, most of the people think that it's about, having private jets, having, wearing expensive clothes. And there's the, the hard deal about actually being an entrepreneur. So what's the biggest difference between that that thing, which people want, and what's the actual fact?
I, I hope that people who just want to be one, I guess the difference is that people who are and who want to be is like, those people have some idea in mind. Their goal is not to be an entrepreneur. Their goal is, I want to bring about this change. Whether it's in the way a certain business is done, a way a certain problem is solved. So someone wants to solve a certain problem. And the best way to do that is, I'm going to roll up my sleeves and do it myself. And hence now I'm an entrepreneur. Versus the latter, want to be entrepreneur or entrepreneurs, as they call them, are more fascinated by whatever they've read and heard and whatnot about entrepreneurs or seen people around, and want to follow that. That's a dangerous territory to be in, to be honest, because if you really want to be successful, you as an entrepreneur, you need to have a clearish idea or vision or passion for something, that this is something I really enjoy, and I see an opportunity here, and hence I want to do it, and hence I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Versus, I want to be an entrepreneur, so I need to find something where I can be an entrepreneur, so I'm going to look for the best business opportunity, but I'm not emotionally tied to it, tied to that thing that I'm trying to solve. So if things get difficult, you may or may not kind of continue it, and you may. So not saying that people who wanted to be entrepreneurs and could have been entrepreneurs in any aspect. There are some people who are passionate about building a big organization, and it doesn't matter that that passion is restricted to a specific field. They could build a big organization in automotive, or they could build a big organization in erasers, for example. But what's driving them is that I love creating a big organization, but at least there's something driving that. So, it's not just I want to be an entrepreneur, but there's something I want to do for which being an entrepreneur is necessary.
Understood.
So the being an entrepreneur is a byproduct of you wanting to do something, versus over here, you're going in with the idea that I want to be this fancy entrepreneur because it's a fancy life and whatnot and all, but it's not fancy at all. I mean, it can be fancy in some parts, for whatever PR you can get or whatever big you can build eventually, but it's a very arduous journey, and unless you're prepared to do that, I would seriously suggest, don't kind of at least drop out of colleges, which is again unnecessarily been glamorized a lot by a lot of philosophy books, but so I think that's the difference, is people who are entrepreneurs didn't want to be entrepreneurs, they just wanted to do something, and which required them to be an entrepreneur, versus this is a category where they don't know what they want to do, but by entrepreneur banna hai. So at least first figure out something that truly drives you, whether it's building an organization, building a brand, or bringing about a change in certain things, in whatever you're observing in society, or in the way products are made, way services are delivered,
Understood.
and so on.
Like, this, advice which you just gave, it reminded me of three things. The first thing, where you said that you actually have to go in and, get your hands dirty doing the job. I'm sure you would have heard of Gary Vaynerchuk, like, since I've stayed in New York for, as a fair amount of time. So he has
Yeah.
this, he has symbolized this theory called the clouds in the dirt. Have you heard of it?
The clouds in the no, I'm not.
Dirt. So basically, there are two photos. The first is a picture of a cloud, and below that it's written that this is your dream, what you want to be. Like, basically it symbolizes who you are, like what you stand for. And the dirt
Right.
is you actually putting in the hard work, you giving in the hours, you burning the midnight oil. So that definitely,
Right.
symbolizes it in a very classy way. Like I really like that. I have a poster of that hung up on my wall here. So it's like a printer that I have
Nice.
done it just because that you have to go into the dirt before you get to the clouds. So that was definitely there. The
Right.
second thing this advice reminded me of was there was this thing which Steve Jobs said in an interview with Bill Gates, that if you want to do something, like if you actually want to start a business or something which will last beyond you, it needs to be something which you really love doing, which you're really passionate about. Because if you're not,
Right.
then the sheer hard work that you need to put in and the sacrifices that you need to make, a rational person would not be able to do that unless he's totally in love with what he's doing. So
Absolutely.
that's definitely a huge part of that. So also, the next question:
Right.
what is the
And it's not
biggest?
just that. I think the
Yeah,
the way I mean, see, you have to constantly iterate, you have to constantly pivot, you have to constantly think of new ways. Things are not
totally.
going to work out as per plan perfectly.
Hmm.
And so one is, of course, you'll persevere more if you love it more. But second, you will also get better ideas and a better way to do things if you love that thing.
Totally.
If I love curating events, so I'm naturally going to get more ideas around that, more ways to do that,
Definitely.
than say, if I had to go and make the world's most innovative tire. I
Hmm.
don't like, I technically only don't understand what is to be done over there.
Of course.
And so even if I'm passionate, इसमें company बनानी है, like beyond a point, I may not get the right ideas. So it
Definitely
helps
understand.
both from a perseverance standpoint, but also from like kind of pivoting, trying new things, which tend to come naturally if you like that field.
Understood, sir. Got that. So
Right.
another question, which would be in continuance with the last one, would be what is the biggest challenge of being an entrepreneur? Like definitely everyone who has like studied entrepreneurs to any extent would know that it's a very challenging role. It's a very challenging job, if you would allow me to call that, to actually be in. But what's the biggest challenge of being an entrepreneur according to you?
I don't. I mean, there are so many challenges, but I think one of the big ones is kind of you get so tied to your idea and what you're thinking, and your plan, and things just don't pan out exactly like that. Very rarely do they, and this is common, like, because we just overestimate. That's a human tendency. It's not a fault of anyone. We just tend to overestimate um, ourselves and also those around us, in terms of how optimistically we'll be able to do things. And coming to terms with that okay, things are not exactly going to go like that, but how do you still persevere beyond that, and keep things going and keep taking people along with you? I think that's probably one of the biggest challenge. Um,
Definitely, sir.
yeah.
Okay, so this is also kind of a challenge which many people face, like the question I'm about to ask you right now. I don't exactly know what was your scenario. If you could share that, that would be great. But there are many people who want to, as get into entrepreneurship and like build their own thing. But their families have always been job driven. So like everyone in the family has been working for someone. They haven't like started something of their own. And in many of these families, like if like let's say I take my own scenario, my dad works for the government, right? And if I want to start my own business, I know my dad will support it. But let's say if there's someone who wants to try that, but his parents are like, don't do this, it's way too risky, go for a government job, that's better. So how should people convince their parents that this is something I want to do, let me do this?
Right. um, I mean, I'm guessing that you come to that point when there's a certain investment required or leaving something aside required.
Hmm.
Um, I think parents are rightfully worried, and they are obviously looking out for your best as per their life experience and their understanding of what the world is.
Hmm.
If you really want to prove it to them, then do something and prove it. That's the easiest way. So any idea you have, you're not directly going to go big. There
Definitely.
are ways to pilot things, there are ways to take baby steps towards it. Keep doing those sincerely. Show that there's some traction that you're getting as part of that, and then why would anyone not support? Of course, when it comes to a much bigger risk, where you need to invest a big amount and you're not sure, those are more challenging times. But at least just to start off, I think there are enough things you can do, um, and show to your family, rather than in theory ask for
Understood.
permission, or kind of their blessings.
It's about, bringing to
So
the table like something which will make them feel ki, okay, if he does this, he'll be able to survive, like as a he'll be able to live a good
exactly,
life.
yeah.
Understood.
As long
Totally
as I
get
can
that.
see you're sincere about it, you're genuinely sincere about it, you're genuinely taking action towards it, and you're very very driven by it, um, and it's starting to show some results, then they'll be more than happy to support.
Great. Understood that, sir. So
Right.
you told us that you moved from the Bombay Shaving Company to Trove. So my
Right.
question to you right now is that what helped you decide that okay, now is the time to move on to another venture? And I'm not just asking this from a business standpoint. Many people, are stuck in places where they don't want to be, but they're not able to realize it themselves that okay, I need to move on from this. It can also be a toxic relationship, it can also be a job where you feel stuck, or it could just be something where you realize that okay, now I need to follow another calling. So how do you realize
Right.
that, and how do you make that transition?
So in my case, it was not a matter of how, it was a matter of when.
Okay.
Right from, I mean, I've been wanting to do something in this experiential travel and entertainment space for
Mm.
pretty much 7 8 years now. I mean, some ideas have been growing in my head around this. And even when I started Bombay Shaving Company along with Shantanu, Rohit, and Deepu, it was very clear between Shantanu and me that this is what I want to do eventually. I'm going to give 3 or 4 years here, and ensure that we are in a comfortable place where we can bring in someone else who can take it into the next phase, and I will step back at that point. And so it
Understood.
was more of that was bound to happen. It was more a question of when.
When it would happen.
um,
Understood.
and uh, and that's kind of a call I took internally. It was part part personal life, and kind of the stage you're at, where you feel okay, now is the time where it's good for a transition to happen over this time period.
Got it.
So for me, it was more of a question of when, not how. But to your other question about many people, they're either in toxic jobs or relationships or just places that they're not enjoying, and I think the one challenge there is people don't look out for other options really. They get very complacent and happy, not happy, but like it's difficult to kind of break
They
from
get
that
numb in the
comfort zone
situation, like they
of,
just get used to it. They try to adapt themselves.
yeah, ultimately, like, we like to be settled in some way, we like to feel settled. And so it's difficult to break from that and find something, and then where do I start, looking, will I get it or not get it, all sorts of thoughts kind of, and thoughts come into your mind. And in general, I think another challenge today is we are so lost in our devices. I mean, I think on average, like, my average screen time on my phone is 5 or 6 hours a day, including
Mm.
work, but
Tot-
it is 5 or 6 hours a day. I'm pretty sure at least 3 hours is just
that's like the
stuff that
normal
is
now.
not needed really. But what that has ended up doing, it's made us more inefficient in our work. So work that we could have otherwise done in 4 hours, now we take 8 hours to do that. Second, it's making us spend more time on that and find less time for things that matter. So it's very
Mm.
easy. So everyone, you'll find everyone is very busy nowadays, very busy, and time is also flying by. As with every year, you notice, yeah, like 2020, despite COVID, despite the world shutting down, we are already in June. So,
Yeah, we're
it's not
halfway
like
through.
I still feel the 6 months have passed by really fast.
Yeah,
And that's
totally.
because you're constantly busy and there's constantly so much to do. And of course, when there's so much to do, time passes quickly. When there's nothing to do, that's when you're sitting and thinking, okay, I'm bored. Nowadays, rarely
Yeah.
do people feel, okay, I'm bored. I mean, yes, maybe in COVID they may have because they're not able to get out and all. And so people don't find time to do anything because
Hmm.
they're constantly busy. They're working 12-hour days, even though effective work may be 7 or 8 hours or 6 hours, but they're working throughout the day, and then you don't find time to, you know, apply anywhere or do something or find an alternative to what you're not liking.
Definitely.
So it's important to again set some sort of habit or some sort of deadline on yourself. And we are people who work on deadlines. I mean, there's no one in the world that plans everything so much in advance. Everyone is kind of scrambling last minute to get things done when you have a deadline set in place.
Yeah,
So
that
create those
actually reminds me.
deadlines.
One of the first interview which I actually took for this podcast was with this great speaker. His name is Mr. Animesh Bhatt. So he gave me a very good piece of advice related to this. He explained it through like in an example. He's like, if you want to go from Ahmedabad to Mumbai and you're driving at night, then you don't need your car lights to eliminate the way from Ahmedabad all the way to Mumbai. You just need 4 or 5 meters in
Hmm.
advance. So plan the initial thing. So like if you are in June right now, plan exactly what you're going to be doing in July, maybe August and September.
Right.
But after that, take things as they come and plan accordingly according to that. So that was definitely something which
Right.
really
So
made a lot of sense.
I agree, and I think that's important. Taking those small steps, but I do feel most people know that. So most people somewhere in their head have that. Okay, by this date I'm going to try and do this, or I'm going to change my job, or I'm going to try something different. But that but unless you're answerable to someone, it
Hmm.
becomes difficult. But when you're answerable to someone, if I have a client who I have to submit something to, I'm answerable to that person. Or if I have a boss who I have to submit something to, I'm answerable. Then it becomes easier to follow a deadline because I know that I'm answerable, so I'm going to complete it, come what may, pull an all-nighter and do it. But when I'm not answerable to anyone, that's when the challenge comes because you're your own boss and you're going to say, "ठीक है ना, आज नहीं हुआ, कल कर लेंगे, कल नहीं हुआ, ठीक है." And then you kind of create a narrative around it that, okay, I'm busy, I don't have time, I'm so
Definitely.
stressed at work, I'm working long days.
Like that, I
So,
believe is the biggest challenge with working from home or working for yourself, that you're answerable to yourself. And people always tell
correct.
themselves,
But even in that case, create ways to make yourself answerable to people, whether it's your family, whether it's a friend, whether it's a mentor. Tell them that, by this day, I'm going to give you this to review. And, of course, it may still not be as critical as, your boss or your client or a business partner. But at least that instills some sense of, okay, I need to get this done, because every time you won't be late in kind of showing something to a friend or a mentor, right?
totally.
One or two times you may request, okay, I need a couple more days, but after that you're going to feel ashamed yourself that I've been telling this person I need a couple more days, I need a couple more days, over and over again. So
Yeah.
create those external kind of um, uh,
Like
ways to
factors which
enforce a
will help
deadline
you to
on
get
you,
the work done.
because
Totally.
we have tremendous potential as human beings,
Hmm.
each one of us. So when we are put under stress, we can achieve like so many things. But when that's not there, we'll take it easy and not achieve it. So figure out ways to do that. So today, like um, I can run a company myself, but I prefer to have partners, co-founders, or people
Just
or
that you're
mentors
answerable.
who I am constantly like in a way answerable to. Technically not, but in a way answerable to, because that helps me kind of keep going.
Understood, sir. So you really talked
Yeah.
about mentors right now, and two questions related to mentorship. First of all, how have your mentors helped you along in life? And secondly, one of the things which I thing that really helps someone succeed when they're starting out is that if they have a good mentor to just show them the path that do this, if not like hold their hand and take them through, but to just give them a direction that take it this way. So first of all, thanks a lot for being my mentor. It really means a lot. And if someone wants to find a mentor, not you but like any mentor, what should be the way to go, and how have your mentors helped you?
I have been blessed with amazing mentors. Right from my first internship when I was doing my masters to my first job, and then all the levels within that, and throughout, I think my career. I think the biggest thing that the mentor does, yes, guiding, showing a direction, all of that is good. Yes, they will tell you, of the 20 things that they tell you, you will probably, like, 3 or 4 things will really stick with you throughout your life.
Hmm.
But I think the biggest thing that they can do for you is show belief in you. And I think when someone shows belief in you, it becomes very reassuring. So if a mentor can really put you in a different orbit, I mean, of course, that's if that mentor is in your job, but a sense of belief that they show on you really tells you that, okay, if this person says I can do it, then maybe I can do it, and maybe I should do it. So I've been put in situations by my mentors where they expected me to either present something that was unexpected, or take up a role that was unexpected, or just have a belief when they tell other people about me, that this fellow is so and so and he does so and so and all of that. And when someone else believes that you can do all those things and achieve all those things,
That's definitely very
you
helpful.
tend to kind of uh, you know you tend it tells you, it keeps reminding you that yes, you can do it. So I think instilling a sense of belief in you that you can achieve something great is the biggest responsibility of a mentor, and the best thing they can do for you. Besides that, whatever little tips and bits and tips and all of those things that they can tell you about how to kind of navigate the business world and the corporate world and all of that, is a bonus. Some you'll remember, some you'll forget. It's okay. You'll kind of figure out your own way.
Hmm.
And so I've been fortunate that they've done that at times where I have really not been sure. If first of all, even when I went from engineering to creative brand management, now I knew nothing about like advertising, especially in the US. Now, you're going to the US and studying the advertising market suddenly, which relies on you understanding culture, understanding people,
Hmm.
and you don't. So my first semester was difficult. I got 2 C's. My second semester got better, but I was still not doing as well. And the school had a reputation of asking students who are not up to the mark to leave after 1 year. And I was like, shit, like, I like after my first semester, I was like, I have 2 C's, like, what the heck, like one more C and I'm out. Um, but then, um, but then, I got an internship at a very good place, and they didn't even interview. They just looked at my portfolio and were happy, and they took me in. And that was kind of the
Wow.
first sense of belief that I got from. His name is Edward Cotton. He's a great planner at this agency called Butler, Shinestone and Partners. And his kind of belief that, okay, this guy just bases portfolio I know is good and can achieve, was kind of the first self reassurance. And then that has continued with several other mentors that I've had, and bosses that I've
Understood.
had.
Understood.
So yeah, I think that's important. Rather than general gyan, something very specific is like, I believe in you, and these are your drawbacks, but these are your strengths, and I believe you can do it. I think
Like
if you can
especially
feel that,
that
and
that reassurance and that belief would definitely be more important for someone who's trying to get his own business up and running, and especially someone who's an entrepreneur, because entrepreneurship, like one of the biggest downsides I feel is that you have that lack of belief in yourself at times. Like I am not a
Yeah,
full-blood
yeah,
entrepreneur,
that happens.
but even myself, when I'm trying to, work on something, there are many times when I feel like ki, I'm not working hard enough, or this is not going right, I'll fail, or like, you have those moments. And definitely your mentors and your
Right.
friends can definitely, help you get out of that moment and like put you right back into the zone. So, sir, the second question, how
Absolutely.
does one get a mentor? Like, how does one get the good mentor? Everyone has heard the quote that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. But that sounds, kind of as a, like you're waiting for it to happen. How do you make sure that you do your part to make sure that that does happen?
Yeah, I think you need to, and first of all, find what I. It depends on what you're looking mentorship for. So, do you want, it? I need a mentor is a very general statement.
What about entrepreneurship,
It's
since that's
it
your
should be
forte?
more about I need. It should start with I need help with this aspect, or I need help navigating this aspect, or I need to start with networking a little more. I mean, you've done it, right? You reached out to me
Definitely.
and we started talking, and I'm here, and we're in touch. So reach out to people. I think people really undervalue like LinkedIn, but I think LinkedIn is an amazing network where you can really meet people
Hmm.
and talk to them and kind of take the conversation from LinkedIn onto another private platform. But you can find people there, build up your networks over there, and just talk to people. And find your, I mean, first and foremost, find mentors in your immediate circle. So in your family,
Hmm.
is there someone who you really look up to who can be a mentor? And it may not be your immediate family, it may be extended family. Second is in your workplace, are there people who you really look up to? Figure out ways to kind of spend time with them or take them out for a coffee or something, and just go for a walk after lunch, and say, I just wanted to chat about a couple of things, and that's how it starts.
Understood.
And as you, again, I think once you kind of wire yourself and you're open to certain things, those things will naturally start coming to you more. I firmly believe in that. So
Definitely.
you need to be in that mind space, and of course you need to take some steps towards that, and then the right things will just fall in place.
Fall into place. Definitely.
And
Like
yeah.
networking, I strongly believe is like, one of the best investments of time, which people can do when they are in their college at least. Like school, I would say is a bit too early to network because you don't exactly know what you want to as a do. But if you know what you want to do,
Right.
then that's great. But I guess college is a time where you should definitely spend at least 5 hours a week minimum on networking. Because like, once you get out of college, many people have that thing ki, just because I didn't go to an IIT or an IIM, I'm not going to get a good package. But frankly speaking, like from what I've like learned from other people, that is not really the case, because when they talk about the placement, that's only on campus placement. But if you spent your 3 years or your 4 years of your college life networking with people really well, then you can definitely get a very good off campus placement if you have the skill set for the job. So that's definitely a factor.
Absolutely.
So have you heard of the six step theory?
The 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah, the 6 degrees of separation theory.
Yeah, yeah.
That's totally something which, like like my mind was boggled. I was like, okay, what is this? I wasn't ready to believe it
Right.
until I read an article that Microsoft actually tested this. So what they did was they did a study where they took two random people on the internet and they just saw their connections and then their connections, and in 6 steps, like they somehow got a connection. And that happened multiple times, so they
Yeah.
verified that, and that was totally shocking for me. So, sir, just two more questions left. For the second
I
last
think
question,
one more suggestion I'll give.
yeah,
One more quick suggestion, because I think a lot of people in college only do like one mandatory internship,
hmm,
and I think that is that shows lack of drive. I think now we're
definitely,
in a
totally
place where
understand that.
there's so much more to be gained. So ideally, maybe 1 year you don't, but you should have 3 internships or at least 2 internships on your resume
Totally.
while you're coming out of college, because that to potential employers, that indicates that this person has gone beyond the mandatory one to do
Hmm,
more. Second,
definitely.
try to do some freelance work along the way as well. Again, like it's all of these things show how driven you are,
Totally,
and how much
totally,
you're keen to learn and grow. And
definitely.
that's something that employers look out for. And so you were saying package. I mean, yeah, people will look for more of those things now on your resume,
Hmm.
rather than just where you studied from.
Definitely, that's there. So like that's the reason. Like, and many people have that excuse, especially in college. Ki, yaar, we are still in college. We haven't learned anything. We don't know anything. Like, so why will someone give us an internship or a job?
अभी
And
तो
what I
कॉलेज में
tell them,
मजे करने हैं, ये करना है.
so that definitely
And
happens. That
honestly,
college mindset. Sorry,
I would say have all your fun in college as well. I'm not saying don't have fun and
definitely.
just do this, because those days ain't coming back ever. but but that's why, like, plan to do things. If you plan, you can find time to get your work done, to get your fun done, and to spend time on yourself as well.
Totally, sir. Totally. That's the reason why, like, I recommend to my friends. Like many times people say, ki, we don't have time, or not just the time factor. We don't have any skill which we can use. And I tell them, yeah, you think you don't have any skill? You at least have hands. You can do filing system. Go to any office company, tell them that you just want to do their office ka filing system. Even there you will learn so much,
Right.
because when you actually work in a corporate office, you learn so many things. Like especially when you're in there for the first time, you learn so many things which you do not learn in college or school. Like those are things which are so minute that they cannot be discussed, in school or college, just because of the time problem. So that's definitely there.
Right.
So the second last question: how do you make a perfect pitch to an investor, or to just someone you're looking for funding from?
um, Again, it's all relative. um, a big thing that matters is how well you know your matter, how driven you are. So investors are not just judging the pitch, in terms of kind of what you're presenting and the category that you're referring to, but they're also judging you in a major way. So how you're, and the littlest of things matter, because people are judging the littlest of things. Did I come and was my, like, top button closed or open? Indicate something. Did I have printouts ready of certain things to be presented? Indicate something. Was I on time or not? Indicate something. How I speak, how I answer questions indicate something. So there's a lot of your own kind of personality traits that will impact the presentation. But of course, at the same time, a major chunk will also matter in terms of what you're presenting, whether there's the product or the service, the market fit, how thoroughly you've done your research. More importantly, how you plan to build a team. That's a very important thing for investors, is who are you bringing in the team, how much time are they going to give, what is their credibility as well, because these are people who are investing for a longer term and a higher return when you become a bigger company. They're not
Hmm.
saying कि ठीक है ये 50 लाख का लोन लेके अगले साल या 2 साल बाद इंटरेस्ट के साथ दे देना. No, they're saying okay, we want to be in this for like 5-6 years and come out with a 4x 5x 6x valuation exit.
Totally.
And you can't get to that place unless you are able to build a good team. So they evaluate all of those things. Some will harp on certain aspects. Some will harp on some certain other aspects. It depends on what their domain expertise is in the specific um, category that you're talking about. So
Understood.
I would say do your homework well, be as thorough, practice. Don't go out there and wing it. Practice in advance, present to
That's
your
something
friends,
which
present
will
to
go
your
totally
team,
terrible,
present to your
especially.
family. You have to, like, the best people. I mean, it's said that Steve Jobs pretty much used to, when he used to do his keynotes, he used to have the keynote ready 8 days in advance, and then he would
Hmm.
spend the next few days just removing things, and making it absolutely simplistic, as simple
Totally.
as possible, and then revising it. So you may see that he has a natural flair. He had a natural flair for when he came
Definitely.
on
But the
TV or
actual
wherever,
practice that
and
went in
gave the
behind
best
that, that
keynotes.
should
But there
be
was
the
a
best.
lot of practice.
Totally.
So you have to practice, and that helps. So do that, because people are like, there'll be a lot of different questions thrown at you, and but more importantly, be genuine. The more genuine you are, the more genuine your investors will be, or rather, the more genuine the terms of the will be the terms on which the investment is made, and it'll make life easier that way. If you've tried to really like show a rosy picture and really like kind of blindside them in some way, at some point it's going to come and bite you back. Yes. So
Totally.
you need to be
Be
genuine
honest,
as
right?
much as
Be
possible.
honest about what you're
Yeah.
offering and what your expectations are. So to sum it up, we can say
Because they're
first thing
not
we should be
expecting,
very
because
thorough.
they're not
Sorry?
expecting you to be perfect. They're not expecting you to be
Okay.
perfect. They're expecting you to have challenges. They're expecting you to have issues. But what they want to say is you can overcome those. How you handle those, right? So
Understood.
even if you get flustered with
It's
one of
more
the
about the test
questions,
of
you
the
don't need to be
attitude.
like correct. Ultimately,
Understood.
it's that. Yeah,
Got it.
yeah.
So to sum it up, we can say first thing, be very thorough with your research and like just know your product and know everything related to the market, the competition, everything. Appearance
You
also
need no
like
again. You need not know everything, but be as thorough as possible. You need not know
yeah,
everything.
like
Be as thorough
giving
as
your best shot for that. Practice your pitch
correct.
as much
Correct.
as you can. And appearance would also be a factor, like definitely, because like how you're dressed, how your hair is, how your beard is, that would I guess be a factor.
I mean, there will always be outliers where that didn't matter, and you'll hear of people who were dressed bizarrely but still managed to get funding. But maybe the idea was just that good enough. But in general, I think you need to be a certain like business casual, at least, if not business formal.
Okay,
You need
understood.
to show a certain sense of respect towards what you're about to do, what the other person, and in general, it's always better to be overdressed than underdressed. So if you're a little overdressed, you can always take off your jacket and be fine and be on terms with them. But if you're underdressed, you can't do anything to kind of make up for it.
Totally,
So
totally. All right, so moving on, last question. If you were to, turn 19 all over again, the reason why I'm saying 19 is because I'm 19, and you had to do this whole journey all over again. First, what would be the things you would change? And secondly, what would be the new things which you would try to do from an earlier age?
I don't know. I'll have to think about that one. Um, I think so. And like I would have tried to get more experience during my education as well. I only did the one mandatory internship. So I
Okay.
would have done all of those things. Okay. And I don't know what would I have done differently.
There must be something which you feel sometimes that if I had done this at that point of time, then maybe things would have been a little easier for me.
I mean,
Or
you always. I think every part of the journey has played an important role in shaping things a certain way. You can
hmm,
obviously always hope that I would have started this a little earlier, or I would have started that a little earlier. Those things are there. So yeah, like instead of me being 34 when I'm starting Trove, I would have loved to start it when I was 30. But then again, like there are certain experiences that would have been compromised or something that wouldn't have been there. So I'm not, and I'm usually an optimist, so I tend to look back at things in a very optimistic light. And okay, whatever's happened is great, and it's kind of prepared me for what's to come.
hmm.
So a little difficult to come up with an answer off the top of my head on that.
All
Um,
right, so that's fine. That's fine. Like
yeah,
many people do believe that you should just look for the forward thing, and as for the things which have already happened,
yeah,
you connect dots later on at some point of your life, and you realize, okay, this decision, even though right now it seems bad, it was good eventually. Like when you look back
correct.
in retrospect. So that
Right.
concludes the
So I mean, I
podcast.
guess one thing is, if I
Yes,
would
sir.
have ever would have tried hard enough, maybe I could have selected my field better instead of just going for polymer engineering. Maybe those 4 years of education in a different field. Yes, I still learned a lot through my co-curricular, extracurricular, and even through curricular. I mean, there's a general aptitude that does develop when you are doing engineering, which comes in handy.
Totally.
But perhaps if I had tried better to find what I love before that and like generally done something in that space, it might have had a different impact. But again, it's hard to tell. So
Definitely, definitely.
cool.
I guess you would like to add reading more books on that list.
Read more books. Absolutely, that's a good one. Yes,
Because since you're
I
trying to
wish I would have
inculcate the
started.
habit now, that's something because like I
I wish
started reading
I
books when I was like 13. That's when I started. And
very good.
even then I feel कि यार थोड़ा जल्दी करना चाहिए था. I should have started at 10. But
Absolutely,
definitely.
absolutely. I would have read. I mean, I would have read probably 300, 400 books by now, and had so much more knowledge.
But with the
So yeah,
pace you're
that's a
going
good
at, you
one.
would get there pretty soon, like, pretty soon. So
Right.
that's it. So thanks a lot for being a part of this podcast. It really means a lot. And just thanks a lot for all the guidance and also for the mentorship that you've been giving me over these past, couple of weeks. And for you guys listening, I would link Sir's Instagram handles. I'll also link the handles of his new company, Trove Experience. Definitely check it out. It's something which I've checked out and I really like the aesthetic of the page. So do give it a look. And so once again, thanks a lot for taking out the time for
Thank
being
you
a
very
part of
much
this.
for having me. Yeah,
Thanks a
happy
lot.
to chat and share whatever I can. Thank you very much.
Definitely, sir. Thanks a lot, sir.
All right.